Dear students, so let us start today's class. So before moving further, I'll ask anybody to please summarize what we have studied in the last class. Anyone?
Sir, may I?
Yeah, please.
So actually, we have studied logical clocks, and we saw that there is one drawback of physical clocks, that we cannot synchronize all the clocks perfectly in a distributed system. So it's not recommended to use physical clocks in distributed systems. Hence, we move on to logical clocks. And then we saw the ordering, that why distributed system, there is a ordering has to be maintained, that before suppose there is an event, if after completing of that event only the next event takes place, no matter how much time the previous event takes to complete. And then we studied some of the actions of a process, that there can be a transforming action, and there can be a communication action, for example sending and receiving. And then we came across occur before relation, that how occur before relation is we have seen the notation of that. And we also seen that sending and receiving, that uh, event always takes place before receiving event. And then we studied lampert's happen before relation. They are the three relations that we studied. And lampert's happen before is also called as partial ordering or casual ordering. And then we took one example in order to understand the happen before relation. One of the property that we came across was irreflexive property, that yeah, for example event a, we cannot say that a event occur before happened before a. So that is a irreflexive property that we saw. And we say that using partial ordering, not all the events can be using happen before relation in partial ordering, not all the events can be related. That's why we move on to logical clocks, which states that each process has its own logical clock. For example, there is a process pi, it has its own logical clock li. And we use that to apply lampert's timestamps on that process. And after that we saw some three of the relations in order to understand that. Then how the logical clocks are practically used. We saw logical clock in practice, that in order to capture the happen before relation, the process updates its logical clocks, and how it transmits those timestamp values. So we studied lc1 and lc2. And in order to understand this logical clock in practice, we solved few numericals based problems on that, and understood what is lc1 and lc2. So, yes, sir, this pretty much sums up what we studied in the last class.
Okay, your name is Vishal, right?
So, Varun, MTech
Varun.
student.
Varun. Okay, Varun, that's quite impressive detailed explanation which you have just presented to all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so very nice one. So I guess all of you who were present in the last class would have got that this is what we have studied in the last one, right? And the new students as well can try to understand. So in short, we emphasize that the ordering of events is very, very important in distributed system, right? Then thereafter we have established a model that we are assuming that there can be number of processes, right? And in any process there can be number of events, and they communicate using message passing only. Okay. Then the intercommunication in between the processes is going with the help of send receive events only. So if there are number of processes, and those processes can talk to each other via send receive message pair only. Okay, so this is a typical model which we'll assume. Then thereafter we studied three rules. We call it as a happen before relationship. We also call it as a causal ordering or the partial ordering, as the uh, Varun, right? Arun or Varun? What's your name?
Sir, Varun.
Varun. Where the Varun has already beautifully explained this one, that we are having three happen before relationship, and they justify how we can establish a happen before relationship in between two events. Okay, So if the events are happening on the same process, then we can say in the order in which a process is observing them, we can have the same observation to form a happened before relationship. Okay, so if in a process E has been observed before E dash, then you can say that E has happened before E dash. This is your HB1, right? And suppose we have got a send receive pair. There are two processes, process 1 and process 2. Okay. If there are two processes, okay, let's say this is process 1 and this is process 2. So this is how they can communicate together. Okay. So this is your send message and this is your receive message. Okay. So we can say that the send message is always going to happen before the receive message. Okay, so if this is, let's say, event E, or let's say E dash, and this is your event E double dash, then you can say that E dash will be happen before E double dash. Why? Because E dash is a send event and E double dash is a receive event. Okay, so this is what is there in your HB2. And what HB3 says, your happened before relationship 3 says, let's say if there are number of events on a process P, 1, 2, 3, or it may be inter-process communication as well. So the important thing which has to be noted over here, if we have relationship where E has happened before E dash, and we have another one where E dash has happened before E double dash, then we can infer that E will be happen before E dash and E dash will be happen before E double dash. That means we can say that E has been happen before E double dash. Right? Guys, just hold on. Huh? Okay. Sorry for the interrupt. So I guess you would have got what do you mean by all the happened before relationship, because these lays the foundation for Lamport clock and vector clock. So Lamport clock we have already studied in the last class. So I hope the students who are new in this class, who were absent in the last class, would have got the concept. Okay. Any doubt, students? If still anybody has got any doubt, then you can ask.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, could you please explain it once more? The last concept.
Your voice is not clear.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, could you please explain the concept once again? Hello.
Yeah. Please move your. Okay. So the thing over here was, if we have got number of processes and on each process there can be number of events. Okay. Suppose this is a process, right? So there can be in a distributed system, there can be number of processes. Okay. Starting from P1, P2 up to Pn, right? And these processes can also communicate to each other, right? So on a process, there can be number of events like E1, E2, we have just named them, we just number them, okay? E4. And now we are talking about, we just wanted to know that which event has happened before which one. Okay, So in short, which event has taken place before which one? We just wanted to know, right? And there are number of applications for that one. And we have discussed that too in the detail in the last class. So in short, in abstract, we just wanted to know that which event has been happened before, or which event has been occurred before which one. Okay, for example, if I want to ask that I am giving you event 1 and event 4, and this is the direction of the time. Okay, this is the direction of the time on a particular process, and this is the diagram given to you. Now I'm asking you, please tell me that which event has happened before which one, whether the event has happened before or the event has happened before. Okay, so since you can observe that this is the direction of the time, that means event has been observed initially, thereafter E2 has been observed, thereafter E3 has been observed, and E4 has been observed, and that is why they have been annotated like this, isn't it? So on the basis of observation, we can say, since we have observed E1 first, then the E4, we can say that E1 has happened before E4. This was your first rule. Okay, having said that, these events are happening on a same process. Okay, there is no inter-process communication in the rule number.
Yes, sir.
Am I clear? The student who was having the doubt?
Yes, sir. It's not.
Now, what is your rule number second? So your rule number is for the processes which are interacting together. For example, we have got a process P1 and a process P2. In this case, P1 is talking to P2. So in general, we can say until unless the send event takes place, we cannot have the receive event. जब तक हम किसी को कोई मैसेज देंगे नहीं, हमें मतलब सामने वाला वो मैसेज रिसीव नहीं कर पाएगा, right? So until we send something, how the other person is going to receive it, right? So this is the basic principle. So your rule number second says, if we have got a inter-process communication where one event represents the send event and the other one represents the receive event, then you can say that send event is always going to happen before the receive event. For example, in this diagram, we have got two processes, P1 and P2. So P1 is sending a message to P2. So let's say sending event is E dash. We have just named it, that the sending event is E dash and the receive event is E double dash. Okay. So since we have just discussed that the send event always happen before the receive event. Okay, where E dash is your send and E double dash is your receive event. So we can say that E dash will be happen before E double dash. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So your HB2 is clear. Now what your HB3 says, if we have got number of such pairs like E happened before E dash and E dash has happened before E double dash. So with this transitivity rule, we can say since E has happened before E dash and E dash has happened before E double dash, then we can say that E has happened before E double dash. Okay, for example, in this process, if we have got three events, okay, the first event is E dash, second one is E double dash, and third one is E triple dash. So since we know that E dash has happened before E double dash and E double dash has happened before E triple dash. So if I ask you that can I infer that E dash has happened before E triple dash? Yes, I can infer it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now things are clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in this diagram, the same thing is being represented. We can say that A has been happened before B because these are the events on the same process, and since A has been observed before the B, so we can say A has been happened before B. Okay. Then the same case is there with the C and D. Okay. Then for BAC, since B and C are the same receive pair, so we can say that B has happened before C. And in case of D and F, again D is your send message and F is your receive message, right? So we can say D has been happened before F. And how we can infer that A has been happened before F? We can say since A has been happened before B and B has happened before C and C has happened before D and D has happened before F. Therefore, we can say that A has been happened before F. Right, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let us move to what we see in the last class. So we studied the Lamport's clock in the last class. So these are the two rules for the logical clock LC1 and LC2. So LC1 says that whenever we observe any event, we timestamp that event after increasing it by 1, right? This was the first rule. And the second rule says that whenever there is a send receive message, so for the send event, we always send its value to the other process, and the other process then compute the maximum value and then the timestamp it. Okay, so this is what in short we have seen in the last class. So what Lamport's clock says, if we have got two events, let's say E and E dash, where E has happened before E dash, then we can say that their corresponding clock values, for example LE and L dash, will be following this condition. So if E has happened before E dash, then the logical clock value of E will be less than the logical clock value of E dash. Okay, so this relation will hold in Lamport's clock. Okay, so for the students who are new into this class, I am explaining what exactly this algorithm is saying. So what we are doing in this algorithm, we are initializing a counter value for each process. Let's say this is L1 for P1, which has been initialized by 0, L2 for P2, which has been again initialized by 0, and then L3 for P3, which is again initialized by 0. Okay. Now, what your rule number 1 says, that Li is incremented before each event is issued at process Pi. So since a process has been observed, so this particular clock will be updated by the any arbitrary value. So we have assumed that that value is going to be 1. So whenever an event is occurred, we are going to update its value by 1 by adding 1 to it. Okay. So since an event has been occurred, so its local counter will get updated by 1 by adding 1 into it. Okay. So L1 will become 1 over here. Okay. And again, one more event has been occurred. So L2 will be 1 plus 1, which is going to be 2. Okay. And for this one, L2, since C is the first event on the process number 2, so L2 is going to be 1 over here. Okay, initially. But since this is a send receive message pair, and your rule number second says that when PI sends a message M, it piggybacks on M the value T equals to Li. Means whatever value is there, so at present the value of M1 was 2. Okay, at the send message the counter value was 2. So this value will be piggybacks to the receive event. So that means M1 will be sent to C. Okay. Now after sending, what it is doing, that has been stated in this one. Point number B of LC2. On receiving M, a process Pj computes the maximum Lj, comma T. So over here we have to calculate the maximum of the local clock, which is 1, and the received value, which is 2. Okay, what we are doing, we are calculating the max. So the result is going to be 2, right? So as of now we have performed this, that we have calculated the maximum value, and then applies LC1. What your LC1 says? Your LC1 says that whenever there is an event, just update it by 1, just add 1 into it, right? So after applying LC1, what we are getting? We are getting 3. So this is why 3 has been mentioned over here. This is for the students who were absent in the last class. Okay. So this is how we are getting 3 over here. And again, this is being updated to 4 by adding 1 into it. Okay. And then again, over here, the maximum in between 4 and 1 has been calculated. So the maximum was 4. Then at the last, 1 has been added to 4. Therefore, it has become 5. So is that clear? Is there any students who is still facing any problem into this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Because now we are going to discuss a difficult one. These are the simple one. Okay, so I assume that every student has got the concept now. Can I assume that one?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, good. So this was one of the example which we have seen in the yesterday's class. This one as well. This one as well. Okay, so you can just have a look of this one. So there can be number of events. Let's say at P there were number of events. So from 1 to there were 10 events. We have just jumped upon some number of events. Okay, so in short, there were 20 such events at P1, but on 21st event was a receive event at P. Okay, so we can just say that we just calculated the maximum of 20 and 4. So 20 came out as a maximum, then it has been incremented by 1. Okay, so this is how we got 21 over here, right? And over here, the maximum of 2 and 31 was 31. Then 31 has been incremented by 1, so it came 32. Okay, so this is how things are happening in this example as well. Okay, now we were talking about the shortcomings of Lamport clock. Okay, this is where we ended our last class. So the major drawback of the Lamport clock is that if we are having the condition where there are 2 events and where we are saying that E dash has happened before E dash, then we can say that the corresponding clock values of E and E dash or E dash, E double dash will be holding this condition, right? The condition is the clock value of E dash or the counter value of E dash will be less than the clock value or the counter value of E double dash. But if we try to infer that if there are two events, let's say LE, or we have got two clock values, let's say LE, and LE is less than LE dash, in that case, we cannot say that E has happened before E dash. Are you getting my point? If this is true, then this is going to be always true, but the reverse is not true. Okay, so we'll try to understand this one with the help of an example. So let's say in this time diagram, we can establish a rule in between A to B, B to C, C to D, and D to F. Now we have got one more event, E. Okay, so what is the logical clock value of E? 1, right? And what is LB? LB is 2, right? Since A1 is less than 2 or L is less than LB, but we cannot say that E has happened before B. Okay, more precisely, let's say we have got one more event or two more events, three more events. Okay, this E, F, let's say this is G, this is H, this is K. Okay, so what is the value of K? In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so logical clock value will be 4 here, it will be 3 here, and it will be 2 here. Okay, so since LK is, or you can say LA, or let's say LB is less than LK, which is 2 and this is 4. But even after that, we cannot say that B has happened before K. Now the question is why we cannot say it? Because whatever rules we have studied, we studied HB1, we studied HB2, and we studied HB3, right? Happened before relationship 1, 2, and 3. And we cannot establish a single link in between these two, B and K. They are not the processes which are happening on a same process. Okay, these are not the events which are happening on the same process, right? The first rule is not being applied. Then in the second rule, these are not a send receive pair, right? And the third rule, there is no existence of any transitivity. So since we are unable to establish a link with the help of these three, therefore we cannot infer this thing, that which one has been happened before which one. And this is where Lamport's clock failed. The students, are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the Lamport's clock. So now what is the solution? So the solution is, since each process was carrying their own knowledge or the knowledge about their local clock. Okay, P1 was managing its own clock, P2 was managing its own clock, okay, here L2, and P3 was managing its own clock. So they were totally unaware about the happenings of the other processes. Okay, so this was the basic reason. So what we can do, that whenever we get any opportunity from any other process, we should keep the information of the other processes as well whenever the opportunity we get. Okay, so this is the lesson, and that lesson will be implemented in the coming algorithm. Okay, now there is one more problematic scenario. Let's say we have got three processes P, Q, and R. Here we can say that event 1 is triggering 2, 2 is triggering 3, 3 is triggering 4, 4 is triggering 5, and 5 is triggering 6. And here 1 is directly causing or triggering 6. What it means, since this diagram is saying that until unless we have 5, we cannot have 6. And this one is saying that I directly can produce 6. Okay, so this is the breaking of causal ordering or the rules which we have just studied, HB1, HB2 and HB3. Okay, so this is again one of the problematic scenario where the notion of Lempert's clock will get failed. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the drawbacks of Lempert's clock have been discussed. So now, as we discussed that since the single number was being used to represent a time, so therefore, what we can do, we can come up with some mechanism through which we can have the information about the other clocks as well. Okay, if we're talking about the P, then it would be good for P to have the information of clock values of Q and R. For Q, it is good to have the clock values of P and R, and for R, it is good for this process to have the information about Q and P, right? Now, to address the problems of Lempert's clock, Merton and Fitch has introduced one more clock, and that clock is called as a vector clock. Okay, so when we studied Lempert's clock, we knew that if we have got two events E and F, and if E has happened before F, then we can say that the clock value of E will be less than the clock value of F, right? And now when we will study vector clock, we will be in a position to say if E has happened before F, if and only if when the clock value of E is less than the clock value of F. Okay, so this condition will hold only in the case when this relation is true. So we will see it with the help of an example. Okay. Now, what this algorithm will be doing, this algorithm will be keeping its own clock value. So this will be keeping its own clock value along with the clock values of the other processes. Okay, so for Vi, that means it is having its own knowledge, while Vij describes the Pi's knowledge of Pj's local logical clock. Okay, so for example, if we have an event P2 with the timestamp 110, okay, we are talking about process P2. Okay, and we are assuming that we have got three processes, P1, P2 and P3. P1, P2 and P3. Okay, and we are talking about P2. Okay, so this event is represented by 110. Okay, so the first value will represent the clock value of process 1. The second will represent the clock value of P2, and the third one will represent the clock value of P3. So it's a vector. Okay, it's vector. So all the processes will be initialized initially by 0, 0, 0. Since there are three processes, so there will be three values. Okay, again 0, 0, 0, and again 0, 0, and 0. Okay, so if this is a value, then you can say this one is the value of logical clock of P1, and this one is for P2, and this one is for P3. Okay. Now you have to note that at any given point of time, these two things are not going to be equal. Okay, you will understand this with the help of an example. Now these are the rule. I want each and every student to please write down this rule once in your copy. All the students, please do it. Or should I directly explain it? Students?
Yes, sir.
So you are writing this down or directly should I explain?
Right.
Writing down, sir.
Yeah. Because if you write it down once, then it will be easy for you to understand this one. So whenever we have class of DPP or DOS, all the students are required to please sit with a copy and pen along with them. Okay, so I assume that all of you have just noted down this algorithm. So this algorithm has been described in 4 steps: VC1, VC2, VC3, and VC4. So VC1 is just nothing but your initialization. Okay, each vector at each process will get initialized, right? Then whenever any event is occurred at any process, we update that vector by 1. Okay, we just add 1 to that vector value of the corresponding process. Okay. Then VC3 says that whenever we have a send event, it sends its local clock value to the receive event. Okay. And VC4 says that whenever there is a receive event, it computes the maximum of the received value. Okay, and then the maximum value is being taken. Okay, then the VC2 is being applied. VC2 says that does increment your value by 1. Okay, so this is what is being happening in this VC1, VC2, VC3, and VC4. And believe me, in the examination, most of the students, 50 to 60% of students are unable to write this algorithm. They just get confused that what is being happening. Okay, when they just see it first time, it seems like that it is a easy one. But most of the students just try to forget that what is actually happening in this algorithm. So they just writing a paragraph instead of writing this algorithm. Okay, so let us see what is happening. Now I'm trying to explain this algorithm with the help of an example. I'm assuming that all of you have just noted it down. Okay, can I assume that one? That all of you just noted this one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now let's say we have got 3 processes P1, P2, and P3. Okay, so we were initialized V1 by 0. Okay, V2 as well initially, and third vector as well has been initialized with 0. Okay, so the moment any event has occurred, we are going to update the clock value of the local vector. Okay, since this is the logical clock value of P1. So whenever any event is being happening at P1, it is going to update this clock value. Okay, clock value of P1. So since the event has been happened at P1, so it will update its local clock value. Okay. Now again, one more event has been happened at P1 only. So again, the local clock value has been updated by 1 or incremented by 1, right? Now let us talk about E. So again, since this is the event at the process number 3, so this is the clock value for the third process, so it will update its local clock value. Okay, so an increment by 1 has been done over here. Okay, so this one is clear. Okay, this one is clear. Okay, and this one is also clear. Now let us talk about this one. So your VC, if you just can see in the algorithm, whenever there is a send event, it sends the vector value vi. Okay, so that means this value has been sent to this one. Okay, and at present, what was the value at P2? At present, the value of P2, a value at P2 was 0, 0, and 0. So now what we have to do, we have to compute the maximum. So how to compute the maximum? We can compute the maximum of corresponding value. Okay, first to first, second to second, and then third to third. Okay, so the maximum in between 2 and 0 is 2. Then the maximum between 0 and 0 is 0. Then the maximum in between 0 and 0 again is going to be 0. Am I clear? As of now, I have just computed the maximum of this vector and this vector, and it has come out as 2, 0, 0. Okay. Now, after computing this one, what we need to do? We need to apply VC2. And what is VC2? That we have to update the local clock, or we have to increment the local clock by 1, right? So now we have to update the local clock, and the local clock is the middle one. Okay, so now it will be your 2, 1, 0. Okay, so this is how we are getting this value over here. And now we'll talk about D. Okay, since this is the event at process P2, so its local clock value will get updated or will get incremented by 1. So it will become 2, 2, and 0. Okay, other values will not change for any process. And similarly, for this case, again the maximum of 0, 2, 2, again 0, 2, okay, which is 2. Then 1, 0 is going to be 1, right? And then when you increment it by 1, it will become 2. So at the end, you will be having 2. Okay, is that clear? So for F, what we have done, we have calculated the maximum of 0, 2. So it came out 2. Then we calculate maximum of 0, 2. Again, it came out 2. Then 1, 0. It came out 1. Then we have to apply VC2. So after applying VC2, what we are getting? We are getting 2, 2, 2. Okay. Any student with any doubt?
No, sir.
Any other student?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So I'll assume that you students have got the understanding of this process. Now please solve this one. All the students, please solve this one. Since you have already noted down the algorithm in your copy, so just follow that algorithm and solve it. So whoever will solve this question first, I'll give him +1 mark in the TA. This is the price. Whoever will solve this question first, I'm going to award 1 mark plus in their TA. How many of you are trying to solve this one? No one?
Yes, sir.
We are trying, sir.
Okay. Nikhil is trying, Ashutosh is trying, Anushi is trying. Good. Anshuman is also trying. Aditi is also trying. Shivani, Upali, Megha. Okay. Deepak, Devesh, Surya, Sumit, Rajesh. Okay. Nagendra, Krishna, Shiva, Priyanshu, Nilesh, still many students have not raised their hand. They are not trying.
Trying, sir.
Okay. So I'll wait for 4 more minutes. Huh? Then I'll end this opportunity.
Sir, done.
Done. Your name, please?
Sir, Shivam.
Shiva. Okay. Roll number?
77.
Roll number E7. And your values for E7 is?
E7. E7 is 7032.
7032. Okay. Value for E14?
2775.
2775. Okay. Then 31
Yes, sir.
for E21?
2475.
2475. Then for E27?
6436.
6436. Okay. Okay, we'll take it down. Sure, na?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Hello.
Yeah,
Sir, Shivani.
Shivani.
MTech student.
Shivani, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your answer is?
Sir, for E7 it's 7032,
Okay.
E14 2775,
Okay.
E21 is 2475,
Okay.
and E27 for E27 is 6436.
Okay. So same answer is coming, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sir, completed.
Your name, please?
Sir, Varun MTech.
Varun.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you got the same value or different values?
Sir, just a minute. E7 is same. E14 2775, and E21 2475, yes, sir. And E27. Okay. So actually for E27 I'm getting a different value, and rest all the first three are same.
Okay. So what value you are getting for E27?
So 2466.
2466 you are getting for E27.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Okay. So who is done?
Done,
Deepak.
sir.
MTech.
Jagmohan Sahu.
Deepak. Roll number, Deepak?
Sir, MTech student.
MTech student. Okay.
Value, sir, E7 7032,
Okay.
E14 2675,
26.
E20 75, and
Okay.
E21 2475,
Mhm.
E27 6436.
Okay. So you are getting E14 different. You are getting 2675.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Done, sir.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Hello, sir.
Varun. Sir, E27, I'm getting the same value, sir, now. Actually,
Okay. You are getting same value now.
for E27, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Done, sir.
Yeah. Your name, please.
Jagmohan Sahu, sir. MTech.
MTech. Uh,
Jagmohan Sahu, sir.
Jagmohan.
Sir, I got the top four same.
Okay.
E7 to E27.
Okay. Fine. Who else?
Sir,
Number eight.
Devesh.
Yes, sir.
Yogesh.
Devesh from MTech, sir.
Yogesh from MTech. You are getting the same value.
First three are same, sir, and last one is 6436.
6436. Last.
36. Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Anybody from BTech?
Yes, sir. Ashutosh.
Ashwin.
Yes, sir. Same, sir. E77032 and E142775 and E21 2475 and E27 6436.
Okay. Okay. So all the students are still doing, or they are not getting how to solve it.
Sir, Anushri also done.
Anushri from MTech, right?
Yes, sir.
Same values?
Yes, sir, same value.
Okay. So what is two and
Sir, my value are different. A27 are 6437.
6437. And who is this?
Pawan,
Pawan from?
MTech.
Pawan from MTech. So Pawan is saying that he is getting value
6437.
6437.
Yes, sir.
And this is for E27. Pawan, this value is for E27, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sir, Sakshi.
Sumit from
BTech IT.
Okay. And one more student who has just spoken up.
Sir, Sakshi.
Sakshi from?
MTech.
Okay. So Sumit, what is your value?
Sir, getting the same values.
Okay. So British student or MTech?
Yes, sir.
Sumit, MTech student or British student?
BTech.
Your roll number, please.
83.
83. So value, these same values.
Yes, sir.
So in 27 you are getting 6437, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Sakshi, what you are getting?
Sir, roll number 77, same value.
Roll number 77 as well, getting same values. Okay. And Sakshi, you?
So like roll number 77, those values I am getting.
Okay, you are Sakshi.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, Rupali, MTech student.
Okay. So Rupali, what you are getting?
Sir, first three values are same and E27 is 6433.
Okay. So Rupali, roll number
Sir, MTech student.
and tech student, and you are getting the last value different, and that value is
6433.
643, right? Okay. Okay, students, so I guess all of you have exercised this one. So let me solve this one. Okay, so let us see who has won the prize. So initially, V1 0 0 0 0, right? V2 again. And okay, for E1 we are going to have 1 0 0 0. Okay, for E8 we are getting 0 1 0 0. Okay, for E15 we will be getting 0 0 1 0. Okay, for E22 we will be having 0 0 0 and 1. Fine, students. Any problem as of now?
No, sir.
Okay. For E2, we'll be having 2, 0, 0, 0. For this one, again, there is no problem. We'll be having 0, 0, 2, 0. Okay. For this one as well, there is no problem. No, there will be a little bit problem. So we'll solve it later. Okay. So all these simple things. Okay. Yeah, for this one directly we can also.
E22 में
सर E22 में चेंज आएगा.
सर E22 में 0011 आएगा सर.
E22.
Yeah, just wait. You are right. 0 0 then 3 0. Okay, so E22 since is a send receive pair, so again the things are going to be different, right? Okay. So we'll solve it later. So these values are, I guess, straightforward, so no issue. So we'll start from here. So for E9 to have, we have to compare E2 and E8 together, right? So the maximum we have to take. So what is the maximum among these 2 and 0? The maximum is 2, right? Then the maximum for the local one is going to be 1. 1 comma 0 is going to be 1. Then we have to increment it by 1, right? Then other values are again 0 and 0. So what I have done, I have just taken the maximum of these two. Then I have incremented the local clock by 1. Is that fine to all the students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is very important. If this is clear, then all the values will be also clear to all of you. Okay. Now let us come to your E22. So for E22, since the first message itself is a receive event, so we have to compute the maximum from these two. Okay, this one and the initial ones. So after taking the maximum values, we'll be having 0, 0, 1, and 0. After updating, it will become 1. Is that fine now? Okay.
Yes.
0, 1. Now for E23, these values are going to be 0, 0, 0, 2. We have to update the local clock. Okay, which is, sorry, this is 1. Okay, so the values are going to be 0, 0, 1, and 2. Is that fine? Okay,
Yes,
now
sir.
let's come to E3. So E3 is going to be how much? Again, the maximum. So the moment you take the maximum, it is going to 2 for the first value. Then you have to update it by 1. So it will become 3. Okay. Then 0. Right. Then 1. Then 2. So the values are going to be 3, 0, 1, 2. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
For E10, this is going to be 2, 3, 0, 0. Okay, just the local value will get updated. Okay, for this we will be having 2400. Okay, now for this one we'll be having 0, 0, 1 and 3 for E24. Okay, now let us come to this point, E4. For E4, what will be the values? Please tell me.
0.
4032.
4032.
4032.
40.
So we have to calculate the maximum of 3 and 0. So maximum will be 3. Since this is the local one, so we have to update it or increment it by 1 as well. So 1, then the maximum of 0, 0, this 0, 0 is going to be 0. Then 1, 3, right? So it will be 3. Then 2, 0 is going to be 2. So 4032. Then this will become 5032, right? And this will become 6032, and it will become 7032. So E7 is 7032. Now let us come to this point, E18. So what will be E18? Maximum of 0, 0, 0. Maximum of 0, 0 again 0. Okay. Then maximum of 3, 1 is 3. Then we have to increment it by 4. Okay. Then the maximum of 0, 3 is 3. So values are 0, 0, 4, 3. Right? And at this point of time, this will be 0, 0, 5, 3. Local counter will be incremented. Right? Now let us calculate E25. So E25 is going to be 0, 2, 2, 4, 0, 4, 0, 1, 1, right? And 3, 0 is going to be 3. Then we have to increment it by 1. 2, 4, 1, 4. Any doubt?
Sir.
Okay. For this one, we will be having 2, 4, 1, 5. Only the local value will get updated. Okay, since it is the process number 4. So only fourth value will be incremented. Now let us come to E20. So what would be E20? E20 would be 2, 4,
2465.
6, 5. And E21 will be 2, 4, 7, 5. Okay, so 2, 4, 7, 5, this value is also correct. This one is correct. This one is correct. Now let us calculate E12. So E12 is going to be 2, maximum of 2, 0 is 2, and maximum of 4, 0 is 4. So it will get incremented by 1. So it will be 5. Then this 0, 5 is going to be 5, 0, 3 is going to be 3, right? And then E3, E13, 2, 6, right? So this is going to be 2, 6, 5, 3. And E14 is going to be 2, 7, 5, 3. Right? This is 7.
750.
2, 7, 5, 3. So
2765.
3.
2755.
So E14 is a receive pair, no?
2775.
Exactly. So we have
21 में 75 ना
सर E21 पे डिपेंड करेगा सर.
just E40 is again the receive one, so we have to calculate the maximum one. So the maximum is going to be 2, then maximum is going to be 6, so we have to increment it by 1, so it will become 7. Then the maximum of 5 and 7 is going to be 7, right? Then the maximum of 3, 5 is 5.
5.
So it is going to be 2775 E14. So this one is also right one. Now which value has been left? Only this one, right? E27. So E27 is maximum of 6, 2, 6, then maximum of 0, 4, 4, maximum of 3, 1, 3, maximum of 2, 5, right? So it is 5, then it will become 6, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 6, 4, 3, 6. Is that clear? Okay, we have calculated maximum
Yes,
of
sir.
6, 2, 6, then 0, 4, 4, then 3, 1, 3, then 2, 5, so maximum 5, then we have to increment it by 1. So 6, 4, 3, 6. So 6, 4, 3, 6 was also the right value. So the students who have given the right value is Shivam from MTech. It was whom?
from
Shivam from MTech, right?
BTech.
Shivam from BTech, and from MTech, who gave the Shivani?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Shivani will get +1 and Shivam will get +1 for this particular question. Other students, is there any doubt?
Sir, mine was also same, Ashutosh.
So the question was whoever will give the first answer.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I'll give similar type of quizzes again in the coming class. So be regular. Okay. So I assume that all the students have got the concept of vector clock as well, and we have seen it with the help of an example as well. Okay. So I'll end this class here only. So let me ask one more time. Is there any doubt?
No, sir.
No sir, no
No,
sir.
sir.
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Good. So